Here's Johnny.
Hey guys, hope you're going well. So it's Oscars time again, and this year I didn't get a chance to share with you my initial reactions on the nominations for Best Picture, the ones that made the cut, and more importantly, the ones that didn't make the cut. RIP The Florida Project. I still love you. So instead today we are going to rank all the Best Picture nominated films from best to worst. None of these films are the worst. They all definitely deserve to be nominated, and this is going to be my very subjective personal opinions about how I would rank the movies in my personal preference, from the ones that are my favorite to the ones that are my least favorite. And as of last night, I finally finished watching all 9 of the nominated movies. So it's been a very long road from when I very first watched Get Out back in May of last year to finally finishing up with The Post just last night in February. Let's get started. First up, it's number 9, and it's Darkest Hour, directed by Joe Wright. Now, I am all for historical biopics. I love a good period drama, and this one starring Gary Oldman, who is undisputably fantastic as the cantankerous and very difficult Prime Minister Winston Churchill, kind of left me wanting more. Set in World War II on the eve of a potential Nazi invasion into Britain, Gary Oldman, he's fantastic with all those prosthetics and makeup to make him look like old and crotchety and crusty. Look, he does a really good job, but something about the filmmaking craft, Joe Wright just hasn't really done it for me since back when he did Atonement. Oh, and I secretly love Pride and Prejudice, the remake. Don't tell anyone. Darkest Hour was a perfectly fine, very adequate, good movie. The emotional climax at the end just didn't really get there for me, and it might have just been a scripting thing all around. Next up at number 8, I am choosing The Post, directed by Steven Spielberg. Now, this was my final movie on my movie Best Picture list to watch, and I just kept putting it off and off and off. Of course, I was all for the threesome, seeing Steven Spielberg, Meryl Streep, and Tom Hanks all together in one movie for the first time ever, but the subject material of this one just seemed so dense, and none of the trailers or marketing hooked me or intrigued me in any way, shape, or form. The story is covering the Washington Post's discovery and involvement in publishing leaked government documents about the disastrous Vietnam War. Meryl Streep is fantastic. Yes, she's always fantastic. Meryl probably doesn't need another Oscar, but fine, give her a Best Actress nomination because she always deserves it. Her character here was one we don't get to see a lot of on screen. She is a fighter, but she's living in a very male-dominated world. She's living in a man's world, but she navigates it in her own way, on her own time. She's not forced. So I really found that an interesting aspect, much more than all the political stuff going on in the background. Next up for number 7, I'm choosing Phantom Thread by Paul Thomas Anderson. And this one stars Daniel Day-Lewis, who is apparently going into retirement or has retired after doing this film. So this is his last film. Who told me that? Daniel Day-Lewis plays a very eccentric high society fashion designer, Reynolds Woodcock, and this one is a romance movie, as only a Paul Thomas Anderson romance movie could be. So it's romantic, but in the strangest, most unhealthy way. Vicky Krieps, the Luxembourgian actress, is that how you say it, Luxembourgian? She matches Daniel Day-Lewis's performance on absolutely every level. Now, their chemistry together is the thread which holds this entire film together. Thread. A beautiful looking movie, but a little bit lackluster. It didn't really pack any kind of punch for me. I enjoyed it, but it really felt to me like an Oscar movie, whatever that means. Next up at number 6, I'm choosing Get Out, directed by Jordan Peele, and it is so good to see a horror movie nominated in the Best Picture category. This movie made big headlines when it released because it is particularly culturally potent about a white woman who brings her black boyfriend home to meet her family, and then things get a little bit spooky and weird. Lots of racially charged commentary, which is very interesting, but you strip all of that back and it's still a really good horror mystery in its own merit. I really liked it. I also probably liked the general conversation and cultural chatter surrounding this movie just as much as the movie itself. So extra points for that. I am really excited to see what Jordan Peele will do next. Number 5, I picked The Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro, and this is gothic drama at its absolute finest. A mute cleaner lady who falls for a strange amphibious creature in a top secret 1960s government facility. I really loved how European this whole movie felt. It was very stylistic, it was very eerie and conspiratory with an edge of that fantastical thrown in. Sally Hawkins was a marvelous casting choice. She's a little bit older and it was the more bold choice for her in this role, but it was perfection. I loved her in this. For number 4, I wanted to choose Call Me By Your Name, directed by Luca Guadagnino, and this one is undeniably the fan favorite. People are just head over heels for this movie with absolute good reason. Timothée Chalamet and the slightly older Armie Hammer together in this Italian summer romance. It is so picturesque. It is the best of a blossoming romance with all that awkward parts, with all those second guessing, with all that hopeless infatuation that comes with it. It's a beautiful movie put together by a really skilled director with a really clear eye of how to capture this unusual sort of coming of age romance, and it's just absolutely gorgeous movie. Number 3, I've picked Lady Bird, directed by Greta Gerwig, and Greta Gerwig, she is just the lady of the moment. Her work has been consistently marvelous, and Lady Bird just continues her trend of looking at female-driven coming-of-age stories, and the fact that this is her directorial debut, it's just such a worthy and exciting film to be in this category. The significance is not lost on me that she is the only female with a Best Picture nomination and a Best Director nomination, and that should be applauded all on its own. Saoirse Ronan stars as Christine, who calls herself Lady Bird, and this is her final year at school. It's a bridging year between being a teen, being an adolescent, to becoming an adult. It's looking at that final school year of being popular, of dating boys, of school dances, fighting with your parents, the whole works. It's not always pretty, but it is very honest. For number 2, this is a movie that really got under my skin, and that is Dunkirk, directed by Christopher Nolan. Now, this is the version of World War II that I was a lot more taken with as opposed to Darkest Hour, which I mentioned earlier. This is the final push of the Germans to the beaches of Dunkirk and the imminent destruction of the British troops, and how the retreat unfolded and was unbelievably successful thanks to Churchill. This is the war film that didn't feel like a war film, that just totally surprised and floored me. It felt complex. There's so much going on in the grander scale of this film, but the way it focuses on its story and its little vignettes of character is sharp like a knife and so simple. These exhausted, war-weary soldiers on the beach with no way out, so tense. The cinematography was so unusual. The score by Hans Zimmer, I was really all about the tone that this film brought and the mood about it. Some vignettes and story threads I preferred over others, but as a whole, the movie just really worked for me. So now you know what I've got for number 1. It is easily my favorite movie of 2017. It is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, directed by Martin McDonagh. Of course, you probably guessed this was my favorite pick for Best Picture because I personally loved this movie so much. It's not the universal favorite, but it's my dark horse favorite. I will leave a link to my full review up somewhere in the YouTube cards. So Frances McDormand as a grieving mother who processes that grief by putting up a bunch of billboards pointing the finger directly at the police for not doing enough of a good job at solving her daughter's murder. The dialogue is so sharp. I adore the screenplay. I really hope Martin McDonagh wins for Best Original Screenplay. It's brazen, it's entirely misguided, and not at all the right way to go about things, but it's a story of anger and grief and processing that in your own way. Even if that way is not the right way, it is still a way. I cannot say more good things about this movie and how clever I thought it was. There you have it, guys, how I would personally rank all 9 of the Best Picture nominated movies for this year's Academy Awards. Sound off in the comments below what your order would be. Of course, it's entirely subjective depending on what genres you like, what characters and stories kind of speak to you. There is no right or wrong answers. All these movies are entirely deserving. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to keep up to date with all things movies and TV. I will as well be doing my Oscar predictions, which I do every year, which I try and guess all the Oscar winners. I hadn't thought about that, but I should definitely get on that because I think we are like less than a week away now. So now that I've seen all the Best Picture movies, I will definitely be getting onto my predictions. So stay tuned for that. That is it from me, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.